Hi, Tyler Thurman here. Some of you know me as Coach Ty from my online persona, and I'm here with my business, Tyler Thurman Coaching. And before we get started with this video, I want to point you in the direction of my website, which has lots of awesome free resources, videos, articles, and links to other transformative sites. And it's www.coachtylerthurman.blogspot.com, and it's kind of my online playground. So go check it out. It's you'll have a lot of fun. And if you're interested in a complimentary consultation to work with me one-on-one, give my office a call at 503-389-3778, and I'd be happy to set that up with you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this week's Transformative Coaching video. And the title for it is The Difference That Makes a Difference. And this subject has been at the heart, I think, of my work for a long time now, at least at the heart of the search, because I have been searching for most of my life for something that makes a true, lasting, transformative difference in people's lives. Something to where something happens and it's just never the same again. There's no effort, there's no struggle, there's no constant consciousness involved in maintaining it. It's just people see something and their lives are transformed. They have a much, much more wonderful experience of their life here on earth. And I've tried a lot of different things, studied a lot of different modalities and psychologies, and I've really only found one thing that makes a true lasting difference for people and for myself. I was the first guinea pig with this, right? And it's not the field necessarily, but it came about from this particular field of psycho-spirituality called the three principles of mind, consciousness, and thought. And all the three principles is just a description of the building blocks of the human experience. And what I've found that they can do for you, first of all, they're working all the time, just like gravity, whether we're aware of them or not. So it's not that there's anything to do with them, but there is a deeper understanding of them to be had. And the thing that I've found that is a natural result of gaining that deeper understanding of the inside-out nature of the human experience, which is what I talk about, ad nauseum, as some of my clients will tell you. What happens is, first of all, we begin to glimpse the significance of the role of thought and consciousness and mind in our lives. In other words, most people have been taught that our experience of life is coming from outside in. It's being sort of imposed on us by the world at large, by our circumstances, by the people we hang out with, by society, the news, the things that we read and watch on TV. We've been taught that those things are all shaping our experience moment by moment, but it turns out that's not the case. That's an inaccurate description of how our human experience works. We can't actually feel the world outside our heads. We can only have an emotional feeling experience of our thinking brought to life by our consciousness. Now, what happens when we begin to understand the role of thought and these three principles in our experience and how they're actually creating it moment by moment from the inside out? Our experience is being projected onto the world, not coming at us. As we begin to understand that role more and more deeply and insightfully, something begins to happen that is quite wonderful, and I don't know why it works this way or how it works necessarily, but I do know that it does. I do know that a transformation occurs, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the way that I see it happening. So we get these deeper insights, this deeper look at what I see as the truth of the human experience, the source, where it is coming from, is these building blocks of our experience. When we see that, what happens is we've got this thought system, all the thoughts that are rumbling around in our head, and we've got all these words to describe thought, like belief and judgment and values and habitual thinking and memories and all these different words that are just synonymous with thought. They're all made of thought. And we begin to glimpse how important thought is in our lives. And what begins to happen is not that our thinking changes significantly, at least right away. It's that our relationship, how we relate to our thinking, to our beliefs, our thoughts, our memories, the story of us, those thoughts, of insecurity and all these ideas about ourselves that we've accumulated throughout our lives. Well, our relationship to it begins to shift. At the lowest level of understanding, if you haven't really glimpsed this much at all, your thinking looks very real to you. One of my favorite quotes comes from David Bohm, and he says, "Thought created our world or our experience and then said, 'I didn't do it.'" In other words, our thoughts are creating our experience of life moment by moment, every second of every day. And we just don't see it. We think it's the world. We think thought really doesn't have anything to do with our experience of life, except for, occasionally we get a good idea or we get upset and we kind of get in a funk. But even then, oftentimes we think that's the world imposing itself on us, like a stressful situation or an upsetting situation or a scary situation, just bombarding us. But it's all happening from the inside out. And as we glimpse this, that thought system, it starts to look a little bit less real, a little bit less significant, and it starts to seem more subjective, starts to seem arbitrary, and on the deepest level, it looks like an illusion. It's just this completely made-up reality. And every once in a while we can see through it. And when we begin to see the truth of the role of thought, the significance of it on our life shrinks. It shrinks because here's the deal. We aren't our thinking. We are not our thoughts. we have this being, this thing called mind, the place in which our thoughts flow. They arise and then they exit. But we're still there. Even the thoughts about ourselves, this thing called the story of us, it's all made up. It's not who we really are. And so, as this thought system, this, just all this representative of all of our thinking, all of our thoughts, begins to shrink, and then we begin to relate to it as if it's kind of like a TV going on in the background. You're not really watching it, you're not really paying attention to it. As opposed to before, if you think your thinking is real and significant and that you have to do something about it, well, that tends to lead to suffering. And it tends to lead to doing things with real outside world consequences. And when we kind of think that our thinking is a bunch of bull, where it's just made up, it has no significance. The way I'm feeling only ever represents the way I'm thinking. And if my thinking is illusory and abstract and subjective, then who cares? I don't need to do anything about it. It's like if the TV's on in the background, you don't need to throw the TV out the window necessarily, because it's just not going to have an impact on your life. And so if that's all it was, that would be pretty wonderful. If we just started to take our thinking less seriously via this deeper understanding. You can't force it. You can't make it happen. It's a natural result of seeing the truth of your human experience, the inside-out nature of the human experience. It just comes about naturally. It's just like, oh, yeah, it's just thought. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking again. I feel afraid. I'm thinking scary thoughts. Whoop-de-doo, alert the media, right? Whereas before it's like, oh God, I'm afraid. I got to do something about it, or I have to stop doing what I was, proceeding with. That fear, that means don't go further. I could get hurt. When it's just like, gosh, I must be thinking scary thoughts. Or I must be thinking sad thoughts. Or I must be thinking angry thoughts. It'll pass. So that in and of itself is pretty darn wonderful. But the other thing that's a natural result of this deeper understanding, this deeper level of consciousness, is what emerges in the space of a clear mind. Because when we basically become unemployed on the inside, as one of my mentors, Michael Neal, says, when we stop trying to fix ourselves and realize that we were never broken in the first place, and that we're beautiful beings of light and spirit, we get an access to this bigger mind, this energy and intelligence behind life, this life source that seems to be flowing through us. It's the source of our wisdom, our infinite, innate wisdom, our creativity, our insight. It's where those aha moments come from that change our life forever. When we see something that can never be unseen again. when we get back in touch with the vastness of life, the beauty of this spiritual essence, who we really are, underneath all the miserable thinking, that is what truly transforms people's lives. A clear mind is awesome. It's wonderful. But what emerges from that is us. It's as one of my favorite teachers in this field, Aaron Turner, says, a newer, more wonderful Aaron emerged. Well, that's the case for every single human being on the planet that I've ever met, is that when they stop trying to fix themselves, stop trying to work on themselves, stop trying to develop themselves into a better person, the kind of person who other people would love and like and respect. When we drop all of that and just throw it out the window, and we begin to see who we really are, deep down, we realize that we were never broken. There was nothing wrong with us. It was all thought all along. We thought ourselves away from our essence, but it never went anywhere. And it turns out we've got this beautiful, spiritual, loving presence ready to emerge in any moment when we give up the fight, when we give up the struggle, when we quit our jobs of working on ourselves on the inside. It leads to the most wonderful life you could ever imagine, or you could ever have figured out with your best laid plans, with what I call our tiny minds or our tiny brains. Why would you try to live your life from your memory bank when you could live your life from this beautiful, infinite, intelligent source that seems to be guiding us on every step of this journey? There's a beautiful quote, you may have heard me say it, from a spiritual text, A Course in Miracles. It says, if you only knew who walked beside you on this journey that you have chosen, you could never experience fear or doubt again. And that is my experience. When you even glimpse your true nature, it changes everything. Now, what I've made my life about is pointing people towards their true nature. Hooking them back up as best I can to that source. If you're interested in joining me on this journey of self-discovery and just self-expression, please reach out to me. You can explore my other videos. I got lots of material like this on my website, www.coachtylerthurman.blogspot.com. If you want to work with me one-on-one, it's my passion. It's my joy. I love it. I love being in this conversation with people. Call my office, 503-389-3778, and it would be my joy to accompany you on this journey. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and may you see just a piece, a tiny piece of the beautiful essence that you have inside you.